tonight to order? Clerk, can I please have attendance called?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Present.
Councilman Andujar.
Present.
Councilman Ritz. Councilman Trafficante.
Present.
Council Vice President Wall.
Here.
Councilwoman Horoyan.
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present. Okay, order of business, could I please have a motion to recommit auto body license renewal, auto sales and service? Call to order, roll call. Is there any public comment tonight? Tom, anybody online?
There's no public comment
Okay,
online.
thank you. All right, the first order of business then is auto body license renewal, Zink's Auto Sales and Services. Could I please have a motion to recommit this?
Motion to reconsider. Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Could I please have to approve this license?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay. Second is auto repair license for Zink's Auto Body and Service located at 550 Atwood Avenue. Could I please have a motion to recommit this?
Motion to reconsider. Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano. Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Could I please have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, with that all being done, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say.
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome to the Cranston City Council's regularly scheduled meeting for the month of June. Today is Monday, June 23rd. At this time, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Bonanno,
Here.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Present.
Councilwoman Horoyan, Councilman Andujar,
Present.
Councilman Ritz,
Present.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yeah.
Council Vice President Wall,
Here.
Council President Marino.
Present. At this time, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. First up this evening, we have approval of minutes. I'd ask for a motion to take the minutes as a block.
Motion to take the minutes as a block.
Second,
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, entertain a motion to approve the block.
Motion to approve the block.
Second,
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have public hearings for public comment on docketed matters. If there's anyone in chambers or on Zoom who wishes to be heard on any docketed matters this evening, please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. Is there anyone in chambers that wishes to speak on any agenda items? Okay, there's no one in chambers. On Zoom, Tom, is there anyone?
There's no public comment online.
Okay, at this time, public comment on docketed matters is now closed. Next, we move on to, on page 3, reports of committees. And at this time, Council Vice President Wall.
Thank you, Council President. The Claims Committee did meet on June the 2nd, 2025. The paid claims report was included in the council members' packets, and I have nothing further to report on that committee now.
Thank you, Council Vice President Wall. Next, we have Councilwoman Horoyan as Chair of Safety Services and Licenses Committee.
We have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. And back to Council Vice President Wall as Chair of Finance.
Thank you again, Madam President. The the Finance Committee did meet. It met twice last month on June the 2nd, and we had a special Finance Committee meeting on June the 12th. Several matters were considered. The first one would be a resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements. These were requested by the tax assessor. It was approved by the Finance Committee. I would recommend passage.
Moved,
Second.
Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The next item for business would be a consideration of tax interest waiver approvals for the month of May 2025. This was recommended by the city treasurer. It was recommended for approval by the Finance Committee on June the 2nd. I would recommend passage.
So moved,
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next up would be ordinance 52505, amending the the city of Cranston 2025 municipal budget, the engineering salary schedule amendment. This was sponsored by Mayor Kenneth Hopkins, as well as co-sponsored by Councilman Ritz. It was approved by the Finance Committee. I recommend passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
And next item would be ordinance 06-2501, ratifying the IAFF, International Association of Firefighters contract for Local 1363, which would run from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028. This was sponsored and recommended by Mayor Hopkins. It was approved of by the Finance Committee and the Special Finance Committee meeting on June the 12th. I recommend passage.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion from council members? I would just like to say, as I did in committee, I want to thank the administration and thank the fire union for their diligence with respect to this contract and the compromises made, and thank the fire department, the fire union, for all of your hard work throughout the city for keeping us safe every day. We thank you for that. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Thank you, Vice President Wall. Next, we have Councilwoman Graziano for Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Council President. Public Works Committee meeting was held on June 12th, 2025, and at this time, we have nothing to report to council.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Andahar as reporting on Ordinance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a few ordinances. We did meet on June 12th, 2025, and we are going to start with ordinance 04-2502, multi-way stop intersections. This is for the Cleveland and Governor Street. I urge passage.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next up, we have ordinance 04-2503, no parking on certain streets. We did amend it to just no parking on the even side, and I urge passage.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz, Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next up, we have 05-2501, an ordinance in regards to licenses generally sponsored by Councilwoman Haroyan. I urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz, Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next up, we have ordinance 05-2502 entitled, it's for tobacco dealers. I urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz, Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next up, we have ordinance 05-2503, sponsored by Councilwoman Haroyan, entitled Bingo Games. I urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Last but not least, we have ordinance 05-25-04, sponsored by Councilwoman Haroyan, entitled Flower Vendors. I urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Bonanno.
I think you may have said this in the committee meeting, Council President, but I just wanted to point out to the public and let everyone know how thankful that we are for our city clerk, Tracy Nelson, and her staff, including Rose, that took it upon themselves to go through this and gave a comprehensive list of what we needed to update to comply with state law, which is what these last few ordinance deletions were. So, I know all of my colleagues here want to say thank you. I just happened to raise my hand first, but thank you very much for your hard work. We appreciate it.
Any other council members? No? Okay. Thank you, Councilman Buonanno. And yes, as in committee, when this was heard, I had expressed appreciation to the clerk and to Councilman Haroyan for their collaboration and diligence relative to making these changes. We very much appreciate the hard work of the clerk, Tracy Nelson. And at this time, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz. Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have public comment for undocketed matters. If there's anyone in chambers or on Zoom who wishes to be heard on any matters that are not on the docket, this is your opportunity. Please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. Thank you.
I'm going to have to do a little bit longer. I just came out of the hospital. I had a heart attack. Good evening, City Council. My name is Diana Gordon. I live at 85 Brick Street in senior housing, Cranston. I have come before you with issues about our city. This should shock you if you believe in our government. I used to. I returned to the state almost 2 years ago. I had missed it and wanted to return home to spend my remaining years. I am 75 years old today. I have been the head of I was the head of a very important and effective crime watch, the Central Cranston Crime Watch. You will find it online, but I made waves when I discovered that there were 6 halfway houses consisting of early release prisoners in a 10-block radius of my house. Our politicians did not tell us. The convicted prisoners had been causing problems, noise, etc. I spoke at the city council. Now we have another senior problem. The government is placing drug addicts in our senior housing. Many of these people are still doing drugs. Having them creates an unsafe environment for our seniors. Many seniors are moving out or trying to move out, but the wait is long. I am as well. My apartment has and is continually broken into. My things damaged, stolen, my food gone. I have been drugged and my cat terrorized. The police do nothing. I had a belief that the police force had a part in this harassment, but now I am sure of it. I have watched as penniless drug addicts suddenly get new cars and new clothes. Where does the money come from? Why are they receiving it? Is it to destroy me because I am a whistleblower? Do they do the police bidding and get paid for? I had joined the Citizens Police Academy years ago and implemented the Crime Watch. I learned quite a lot, and it is common knowledge that the police hire informants. I believe the public should know the good and bad decisions our government decides and speak up for the consequences and retaliations. I had my business, Antiques in the Attic, in Auburn. It was destroyed by a blockading of my road with a Jersey barrier for a year. I lost everything. A neighbor whose husband had previously linked to the city was allowed to harass me. The police did nothing. When I ran for city council, I was a shoo-in to win, and the Democrats in the council lied about me in the Cranston Herald. I went to a hotel to relax just a few weeks ago. And my room, there was broken into and some of my possessions were stolen. I woke up hurt. All of this has created great stress for me, but I speak with others to elevate it, and it keeps me strong and vibrant. Now I found out that my cat was stolen from my residence. It seems that she was taken by the Cranston Animal Shelter. And it is the police because I called up and they said that they also work with that. The police told them that I abandoned her to pick her up. I'm not in my apartment at this time, but a friend of mine comes every day to make sure she had plenty of food and water and her litter box clean. My cat is a feral cat. That means she was wild. She is put in a cage and is terrified. They couldn't even check her thing to see if her license to see if she was, they couldn't do it. They couldn't get near her. Since the shelter is closed Mondays, I will get her tomorrow. Well, actually, I made this a different date. And I will get her. First, I don't have much left and I am old. But let me tell you the most disgusting thing the police have done to me. They tell people that I am delusional. I am not. I had a neuroplasticity test to prove that, and it did.
Ms. Gordon,
No, I'm gonna finish.
it's been over 4 minutes, so if you can just please wrap it up, please.
I have a right to talk. I haven't been in a long time, and you're just trying to avoid the situation.
This is a set rule, Ms. Gordon, and again, you've been over the 4 minutes. If you could please just wrap it up quickly in the next 30 seconds, we'd appreciate
Okay,
it. Thank you.
I don't have much. The police have been using drug addicts to torture me and spy on me. They've updated technology and cameras, tracers, and drugs. There is more to accomplish it. They have addicts cut my hair off. I would never cut my hair like this. They do this at night while I'm sleeping. They put me under. Sounds impossible? It isn't. There are things that can happen. I will continue to let more people know what is occurring, and not only to me, but to you. Call me and let me know what's happening in your neighborhood or your concerns. It will be confidential, for I am a true whistleblower and will not stop. I am, like I said, I'm 75 years old. My phone number is 828-508-9018. It's a North Carolina number because I have friends there. All right. I'm going to be waiting at the door to get Misty tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock because they feed the animals before that. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Susan Blake. I live at 173 Grand Avenue. I'd like to thank you for your time here tonight and for allowing me a few minutes to speak. I would like to ask you why you are not discussing the ongoing Budlong Pool debacle with the administration. This is the third city council meeting when it hasn't come up, so I felt compelled to come tonight. Understanding what Mr. Moretti explained a couple of months ago regarding the surprise of hitting an aqueduct underneath the original pool, the question now is what progress is the administration making at fixing the damage incurred? I follow the Board of Contract and Supply agendas, bids, et cetera, and I haven't seen anything that appears to be related to a bid for a contract to fix the problem so the project can proceed. And now I lost my spot. Oh. The pool may not be opening this summer, but there is a glaring problem that gives the pathetic status of this being on the administration's back burner. People that speak about this online a lot, they have no idea what they went looking for the pool to be open, and you know what they saw. What will the cost be to remedy it? Where will the additional funds come from? Those are questions that, serious questions that I have. The impression is that the administration is dragging their feet on the project. I'm not saying that they are, but that's what it looks like, since digging up an aqueduct underneath the destruction of the original pool. And by the way, had the engineers at the esteemed Weston and Sampson done their due diligence in reviewing historical documents that had information about what lay below the pool shell, we would not be here. The aqueduct is clearly noted in public documents from the Rhode Island Historical Preservation Commission. You can Google it. The pool is on Aqueduct Road. I mean, how many clues do we need? Please note that this administration and Weston and Sampson both rejected offers of input and information from Mr. Tony Liberatore, who previously was the supervisor at the pool for approximately 20 years. Lastly, may I remind all of you that 4 million of the 4.75 million that we have in our hands right now to work on that pool, 4 million expires at the end of this year if it's not spent, not allocated, spent. So we need to be pushing this, or you do, because Once that money's gone, that's it. We're never going to see a pool there. And Vantage Builders, who won the construction bid for the project, has right on the landing page of their website that they give weekly updates to their clients throughout the project. So let's get updated. Thank you.
Kimberly Bogosian, 45 Mount View Drive, Cranston, Rhode Island. I want to talk about safety in the workplace. It's been really hot and there's a chance for heat stroke, and people need to drink water and have safe conditions with air conditioning. And I just want to make Seven Stars Bakery the top-notch bakery who support workers, support the picket lines, support our city. So if we can make that change to everyone, and Seven Stars Bakery will be in a better, healthier place. Thank you.
Anyone else in chambers on any undocketed matters? Okay, there's no one else in chambers. Tom, is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters?
There is no public comment online.
Thank you. Public comment on undocketed matters is now closed. Moving on to election appointment of city officials. We have the reappointment of Mr. David Clockston to the Building Appeals Board as licensed contractor for the term of March 6, 23 through March 6, 2028. Do I have a motion to reappoint?
Motion to reappoint Dave
Second.
Clockston to the Building Appeals Board.
Second.
Any discussion? Just want to thank Mr. Clockston for his volunteer service. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay, moving on to executive communications. At this time, we have the Administration, Police Department review of traffic safety measures and enforcement. Director Moretti and Colonel has give you the floor.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you for accepting this for the docket this evening. You're very gracious to do so. The mayor's office, through our Constituent Affairs Department, first and foremost, has been receiving a good number of complaints about speeding and safety concerns throughout the city, receiving many correspondence from council members along with the general public directly. With that, I called the colonel, and after discussing this with the mayor, to see if he'd like to have this addressed with the council, to give us a little background and what the police are able to do. So when we correspond with police and conveying those messages, you kind of hear it out of the horse's mouth, if you will. So I called the colonel and I just asked for someone in a responsible position to, if they could come to attend this council meeting. And he chose to come himself, to be gracious enough to do so. So we have the colonel to do so, but the only one thing I guess I would say from the administration is if you are receiving complaints, to the extent you can validate it, validate those complaints, because we don't want to kind of waste resources, especially police resources. So if you have a good feel for the credibility of what people are saying, I think it would be, it would be helpful rather than tying up resources. But the colonel and his staff are very good at ferreting that out. But with that, Council President, if it's possible to have Colonel Winquist here.
Absolutely, thanks.
Thank you, Chief of Staff, and good to see the council members tonight on this beautiful summer evening. Yeah, second is important because we handle all the traffic complaints that come in, and I know a lot of them go directly to the council. And, the first reaction is we got to do something quickly, and, there's a lot of different thoughts on what should be done. And so what we do is we're data driven, okay? So we believe in technology and using data because that's the only way we can really validate any of these speed complaints that we receive. And I would say speeding is the #1 complaint that we receive as well as you do as well. So some of the complaints come in directly to our traffic unit or myself or Major Catalano. Obviously, you're receiving them. Some go to Gina Capuano, but they all end up pretty much at the same place, which is a traffic unit within the Cranston Police Department. So we have a number of stealth devices, traffic speed collection devices. And it takes us a few minutes to place one of these devices out on a roadway. And what it does, it collects the speed of every vehicle that travels past that device. So we can tell the volume of vehicles that are going by, the average speed of vehicles going by, the average number of vehicles that are exceeding the speed limit. Normally, we put a 5 to 10 mile an hour threshold, depending on what the speed limit is on that particular road. And quite often, the results are surprising in the fact that what people perceive as really a speeding issue is more of a volume issue or might be something else that's going on. So once we have this analysis, if it does determine that this is a high enforcement area, then we will look at the best times of day to assign resources to that location. So generally, you fund a line item for the police department called the CARE detail. And that detail is exactly that we assign officers on an overtime basis to go out and do directed patrols and high enforcement in those particular areas. And for the most part, it's very effective. We stop a lot of vehicles. Over 20,000 vehicles a year are stopped by the Cranston Police Department. So officers are out there, they're doing their job. Quite often, if it's a person's first offense, they have a clean driving history, they're gonna get probably a verbal warning. Or they might get a documented warning into our records management system. Yeah, obviously, if they've been stopped multiple times, then they're gonna get a ticket. Nobody likes to get tickets, nobody likes to give tickets, but unfortunately, that's one way that we can deter some of the speeding that's going on. A lot of the roads that we get are repeat roads. So we'll go out and we'll do heavy traffic enforcement. I know Hope Road was one of the ones that came up recently. We've issued, so many tickets on Hope Road. But unfortunately, when you leave, a lot of times the traffic will pick up. But when they see us out there, they're thinking about it, they'll slow down, and it's effective. But to me, the most effective way to deter speeding is to have high visibility with marked cruisers and officers in uniform. So we do a lot of that as we go on. I know there's an immediate thought that, stop signs should be used for reducing speed, and that's not the purpose of stop signs. Stop signs are to direct the right of way and to control the flow of traffic. And what usually happens when somebody puts a stop sign in because they're tired of hearing the same person complain about speeding vehicles, the next complaint is that people are rolling through the stop signs, and then we're back out writing a lot of stop sign violations, which is fine, but it's really not an effective tool. And I know we talked about the idea has been proposed about speed humps and bumps, and that's been going on, for several years. And some cities and towns have actually utilized them, and some of those towns actually remove them because, quite frankly, they're not very effective because people learn where the bumps are. They'll accelerate to that point. They'll slow down, they'll rev their engine as they're going over the speed bump. So if you live near a speed bump, you're not going to be happy with the noise, especially in a residential area. And once they get past the speed hump, they accelerate back to their speed. So you might get a small area where they reduce speed. For the most part, it doesn't work well. And there's also issues with bicyclists, motorcyclists. If you think you get a lot of claims in the claims unit now, you'll have a lot more with undercarriages being damaged and so on and so forth. So I know Providence had a bunch of speed bumps that they removed. Johnson just put them in, but it's more of a commercial area. But that's kind of the immediate thing as well. Let's put these bumps in. But from what I've studied and what I know and talking to other chiefs, they removed them and they weren't very effective for a lot of different reasons. And it also creates issues for potentially rear end collisions. People come up to these speed bumps and they jack up and somebody's behind them. So they actually could cause more risk than reward. Speed cameras, I know we talked about speed cameras. Quite frankly, you can only use speed cameras right now by state law in a school zone. And what you'll find is people staring down at their steering wheels. If you go through, I go through East Providence often, and one road has about 6 of these speed cameras on it. And it's almost like everyone's just staring down like, oh my God, I'm doing 1 mile over the limit. And then the thing about it is the tickets are issued, a private company actually manages the cameras. And they take somewhere from like 60 to 70% of the revenue. And then the officers have to review the camera to validate, and they click a box. So you're going to put an officer on extra duty to validate the speed complaints. And, you know, millions of dollars are coming in, but to be honest with you, they send the ticket to the owner of the vehicle, and that ticket may arrive 2 or 3 weeks later. To me, that's really not an effective deterrent when you get a ticket, you know, 3 weeks later. It's like, you know, having a kid, you catch them in the cookie jar and you wait, you know, 3 or 4 days and say, hey, you're in trouble, you took a cookie out of the cookie jar. It's not as effective if you catch them in the act, if you will. So I don't know if that analogy really works, but at the end of the day, there are mechanisms like design builds that can slow speed down. So if there's a roadway with a lot of wide lanes, that tends to be areas where people like to speed because they have a lot of room to speed. So road narrowing is a possibility. I don't want to step out of my expertise. I know we have a traffic engineer for the city, but if there's certain areas that we repetitively see these issues happening, I think that would be the best approach, is to take that combined with let us do a speed study, let us get out and do our enforcement measures and attack it that way. But unfortunately, this is going to be something that keeps coming up and up. We also look at accident data too, to find out where the crashes are happening and try to figure out if these are mostly speed related crashes. You know, that's an area that needs enforcement as well. So I know you're getting a lot of the complaints, and we're glad to accommodate your complaints that you get. I have no problem making sure that you get the data. What I like to do is I give the data back to you, and these reports that these boxes generate are very easy to read. At least I think they're pretty easy to read. And all you got to do is say, hey, the police department, they study this, and here's the data. And they can look at it directly. And we usually leave the boxes out for about a week at a time, and to make sure, it's weekends and it's, during a certain period of time. But I know we just did a bunch. I know Councilman Bonanno, we did a bunch for him in the Garden City Drive area. I think the average speed was literally the speed limit, or maybe a mile or two over. So what was perceived as a really bad area didn't turn out that way. Hope Road, 100%, that's definitely a problem. And we're going to continue to tackle that. We're going to continue to make that a priority because there's only so many resources we have to go around. So that's why we assess the situation with the data first, and then we attack the problem if needed, and we direct the patrols at the right times, the right days of the week, and we go from there. So I hope I explained it. I'm open for any questions you may have.
Council Vice President Wall.
Thank you, Colonel, for coming in. And I certainly don't profess to have any of the expertise you have, and I thank you for the job of the Cranston Police, the job that you do. The council president and I were fortunate enough last week to attend a safety crime watch meeting at Glen Hill Schools. And it's like you read, well, Captain Dutra was there. Maybe
Yes.
you heard some of the stuff that went on. But there were two things that came out of it. Some of the biggest issues were traffic violations and speeding, people rolling through the stop signs, as you speak of, speeding, and the question of speed bumps did come up. And I work, I drive to Providence every day, and I go through an area where there's lots of speed bumps, and there's been speed bumps there for 20 years. And my experience, not to disagree with you, is only anecdotal. I can tell you what I see every morning. You have to drive slow through there. Is it just a philosophy, or is it a policy of the city that we don't do speed bumps? Because there are actually a few speed bumps in the city, aren't there?
I think there's some in some of the areas of the schools.
Yeah.
They've been there a long time. I don't disagree that sometimes the people slow down in that particular area, but you got to understand that they also push traffic to parallel roads that don't have them. And I know once you put your first speed bump in, you're going to be inundated. Everybody's going to want to speed bump on the road until they live near a speed bump and they hear the noise that they generate and the revving of the engines, the noise when someone's traveling over a speed bump. It's you'll have them, the same person who wanted it will want you to take it out.
And if we, and I don't want to put you on the spot, if you had a neighborhood where the people on that street said, listen, we'd like to have speed bumps, this is a racetrack here, and they appealed to the city. And he said, listen, you can put, I had people say, you can put it right in front of my house. Would the city be against that? I don't know if that's your purview either. I don't want to put you in an awkward position. Is this just something we don't do, or because I've had people say, and I've used that because that was brought to me. People you don't want to have one in front of your house. I had a person say, you can put it in front of my house tomorrow.
Until they hear the effects of.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
the devil's in the details. So I don't want to take up all your time, but I just figured it'd be important to express it.
I can tell you too, from a first responder standpoint, that will slow responses down too. Each speed bump costs about 3 to 4 seconds. May not seem like a lot, but if you have multiple streets with speed bumps, it's going to slow down your first responders too. There's no like law against it. There's no, not that I'm aware of any ordinance. I just think that over time, Mayor Fung asked me about this before. Obviously, Mayor Hopkins, I gave my professional opinion based on what I told you tonight. You know, if they put one in just to try it out, like that's not really up to me, but you know, I wouldn't be vehemently opposed, but I think that there's an expectation that it's gonna have a certain result. And I think that you're gonna have a lot of requests for these speed bumps.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilman Ritz.
Thank you, Chief, for coming tonight and all your help. When you talked about the road narrowing in Hope Road, is there an opportunity to maybe use the orange barrels to narrow portions of Hope Road as a trial to see if that would stop some of the traffic?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I obviously that would be a traffic engineering discussion, but at the end of the day, I mean, we could place a collection box in that area before we already have the data, and then, you know, see if that would cause people to slow down. Because that's a wide road and it's a rural area. And I think that's why we're getting the speeds we're getting. We're getting some really high speeds. I mean, sometimes in the 50s or 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, thank you for sending that report, and it's
You're welcome.
happening around to Natick Ave. I hear about too, but Council President before I suggest that one. But thank you. Yeah, I'll talk to them, possibly test that.
Yeah, to Councilman Ritz's point, I live on Natick Avenue. And I witnessed it and heard it myself, and there's been a lot of complaints. It's a long stretch of road too. It's almost 2 miles. I did see a police presence, and residents were glad to see that, you know, as well. And so we appreciate, you know, addressing that situation. I mean, cars have flipped over on that street just in single car accidents, and it's usually at least 5 or more accidents a year along those lines where they go off the road, hit poles or stuff like that. So it's a trouble spot with speeding, so we appreciate it.
Another option too is the blinking speed signs that you see in certain areas. Unfortunately, they're not cheap. They're probably, you know, 3,000 or 4,000. I know the grant writer for the city council, Ms. Indoja, had written grants in the past. And I do think that they have the effect on some drivers. I'm not going to say all drivers. Some people don't care. They go by them. But I think sometimes people don't realize how fast they're going and just, hey, oh my God, you're too fast and it's blinking, and you know, they feel maybe a little bit guilty, or they're not realizing they're going that fast and they might reduce the speed. So that's an option, you know, on certain roads, and something we could, you know, join forces with the grant writer to try to do if there was certain areas that you think you'd want to do that in.
Councilwoman Graziano?
Thank you, Colonel, for coming. Actually, this is something that I get a lot of complaints about. I'm in Ward 1. And I want to say, I specifically don't support speed bumps or the cameras. I actually stopped going to a small business because I was getting like looking, and I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't go to the business anymore if I was paying attention to every mile I was over the speed limit. But I do get a lot of complaints, and I do need a resolution. So for me, you know, I feel like I need some resolution. I would like the city to come up with something that we can give our residents. So I recently, I think you put one up Prospect Street for me. I don't have that report. I'd love to get it.
Sure.
I can send you an email, but
Yeah.
Prospect Street.
Okay.
But road narrowing is an option, but then I worry about emergency vehicles. I don't know if like talking about like at the top of the road, like going, is that what you're talking about? Like going?
Well, I mean, the firefighters wouldn't be happy with me. So no, those big trucks, and especially in Edgewood area and stuff, it's tough. But we've done a lot of enforcement in the Edgewood area, and I think we've been pretty successful. But like anything else, you leave and then it picks up again. That's pretty much what happens.
So my biggest two things are the schools. I get a lot of calls about roads in Edgewood Highland. And I actually had a PTO meeting in June, and I'm also the PTO president there. Unfortunately, I opened up the floor and asked if anybody wanted me to report anything, and just letting you know that speeding at those two schools, obviously school's out right now, but when it's back in session, that's definitely something the parents are monitoring. But yeah, I'd love to. The other question I have for you is there anyone in the care detail that would be willing to like do a neighborhood discussion or like something like that?
Yeah, it would be our community outreach division. Like Captain Dutra was mentioned, he runs our community outreach. So he goes to the crime watch meetings and other stuff like that. And somebody from the traffic unit could go with him and explain kind of what I explained tonight. This is what we do. We take the data. I think it's helpful. Like, we're not just fluffing it off, but we want to prioritize our resources. And some people, they get the results and they're not happy with the results, but it's the results of the results,
Yeah, I would love to have that in
Absolutely.
Ward 1. I'll just say that out loud.
Yeah, if you can just let me know, when and where, and I'll make sure that we have somebody there. Welcome.
Councilman Buonanno, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I wanted to mention speed bumps, and I think all of us have lived in Cranston for quite some time, and I remember it's probably about almost 20 to 25 years ago, we did a pilot program in our city with respect to speed bumps. Obviously, it was before I was on the council, it was before Chief Winquist was the chief. It's probably 3 or 4 police chiefs ago. But under Mayor Laffey, he implemented a program of temporary speed bumps, and I think it was around schools. And they're not there anymore. And they weren't there very long. So I don't have the data from that study. I'm just inferring from the fact that the speed bumps were removed after a very short period of time that they weren't effective. And the colonel mentioned something very, very poignant, but it was just in a sentence. He said, people are going to find different roads to travel with speed bumps. It's a little story that when I was in college, the most direct way to get from my house to Rhode Island College had speed bumps every 10 feet. So I stopped going that way. Number one, I had an old car at that point, and I didn't want to damage it. And number two, I wanted to get there as quickly as I could because, like every good college student, I was late all the time. So that's gonna open. I think the speed bumps are gonna open up Pandora's box. I also think that I've asked for, I think, maybe 2 or 3 areas to be studied, and the police department, as always, gets us that data. When I ask for the data, it comes so fast, it's unbelievable. I can't believe it. And they do a fantastic job. And when the first one I looked at, I didn't really know what I was looking at. And they also did a fantastic job of letting me know what I was seeing. And I think, unfortunately, the perception and the reality are totally different. Being involved with my children's school, I also got quite a few complaints from Garden City School parents that, hey, the speed around here is ridiculous. What can we do? It's like, all right, let me look into it. And then when I give the data that was given to us by the police department, they go, I can't believe that. Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. So we need to, I think us as a body and perhaps as a society need to realize that one person speeding down your street a day, yeah, that's a problem, but it's not a speeding problem. That's a different type of problem. And, can the police catch every single speeder? I don't think so. Can we put in measures that are going to catch every single speeder? No. Can we as a council make everybody happy all the time? Well, we try, we do our best, but that's not possible. So with this particular instance, I mean, the chief has gone over, what the procedure is and how they do it and traffic studies and things. And I think that, if there's a complaint from a constituent, there's a complaint from a member of the public, we turn it over to the police and we say, hey, what do you think about this? And then we have to go with what the experts say. If you want to know how to make a license plate, I'm your guy. I'm not the guy for stopping cars and solving the problems for speeding. We'll leave that up to the police officers. But I think that the most eye-opening thing for me, as I'll repeat, is the data that has been collected is raw data with a summary. And that summary, almost all the time, I would say every time I've asked, which is a small sample size, is a lot different than the perception of what's going on. And I think that we gotta realize that before we jump into any fast, solutions. We gotta think about it as a whole first, and how it affects all the other different things. So, I mean, I think that everybody's committed to finding the best solution. And the best solution isn't always the easiest one to come up with.
What we find too is when
Thanks.
we do our enforcement efforts, sometimes we stop the actual person who made the complaint. So part of it is educating and having neighbors take the responsibility, because at the end of the day, we can go out and write 1,000 tickets in a week. And it comes down to drivers as being responsible. We can't be at every intersection. We can't be on every roadway. And, a lot of times you see those signs, and I think they're impactful. They say, drive like your kid lives here, So at the end of the day, I think people have to change their driving behaviors, and we have to write tickets, we will, but sometimes that's effective and sometimes it's not. So, but again, I know you're pushed to do something and take some type of action. My suggestion is the first step is to send it our way so we can do an analysis, a data analysis. Let us get the data, and then you can show that data to your constituent. And then if it shows that enforcement is needed, we'll make sure we have a list of, for the care detail, I'll make sure they go out and they're going to see high visibility, and there's going to be a lot of car stops and a good percentage of tickets being written too.
Councilman Andahar?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Chief, for coming today. Now that we're talking about speeding, there's a small neighborhood on West Harry. It's right behind the police station. And I know Niantic Avenue is not ours, but there are reports of drag racing, and hopefully you could combine with Providence and maybe do a joint task force or something. But they're also speeding on Kenwood, which is the street behind.
Yep.
And there's a popular restaurant in that area that on the weekends they just, they party, and the younger crowd gets out there. So I just wanted to see if you could put that on your radar, so that way the residents of that neighborhood behind the police station can sleep at night.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Haroyan?
Colonel, first of all, thank you for being here tonight. Preston Drive, I get a lot of complaints. Your department was wonderful, went out and did a traffic study, supported a four-way stop sign.
Okay.
But, and they've been great going out, but I'm getting probably one email a week from different constituents, not always the same, just saying, no one's stopping at the stop sign. It's a Google cut through, and there's a lot of speeding still. If there's anything, we can just ask for a little.
Yep, we can definitely set a detail out there. I don't know if there's certain times of the day they're seeing this, because we try to focus the best we can.
Last week's email was the morning commute. They think cutting through from Pontiac to get to Reservoir to get on Route 10.
Yeah, a lot of these streets are considered cut throughs, and I know that came up, I'm trying to think of the road, but this went on and on for a while, but they wanted to make it a one-way, then they didn't want it to be a one-way, and then the traffic gets pushed to the next street over, then everybody complains on that street. So it's a moving target, if you will. But if you can just send me a quick email on the times of day they're seeing that, and
Okay.
I'll make sure it gets assigned out to somebody. Because stop signs, we can't do it really an analysis other than just going out there and sitting there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Council Trafficante?
Chief, I've traveled through the South Elmwood area of Providence quite often. It's where Reservoir Avenue and Elmwood Avenue come together. And I travel those side streets, and each one of those side streets are pretty long streets. And I've noticed that they've narrowed the streets at every intersection. And that, I think, is the best solution for slowing traffic down, by narrowing the streets. Especially in Cranston, we have long runways like a Pepin Orchard Road, or maybe Shore Avenue and Edgewood, things of that nature. I think that's the best solution, because stop signs and speed bumps is not going to do it.
I think you're correct, Mayor. I think, and that's a cost effective. I'm not an engineer, but I think that would be, pretty cost effective to do. I mean, you mentioned Pipin Orchard Road. I mean, that's another area. And we had a fatality there not too long ago. So, I just think that, Steve Mulcahy, the traffic engineer, and we've got I mean, if we tried it out in one area, you know, and then do the study before and after and see if it works, I just don't know what the cost would be for something like that.
Any other council members? Okay. Just want to thank you, Colonel, for coming here this evening, for presenting all this information to us. And I think the one thing that we all have learned, it's not a one size fits all, and each situation is unique. And I know that from my time on council, anytime that I hear from a resident with concerns about speeding, traffic safety, I try to get as much factual information as I can from them in terms of time of day, you know, things like that. And I know that helps to facilitate your examination of the situation. And so we do appreciate the work that you put forward in your department. Right? And a special thanks to Captain Dutra as the community
I'll let him know.
liaison and coming out the other night. We
Thank you.
appreciate that too. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the legal expense analysis report for the period of July 1, 24 through June 23, 25. Do we have any discussion, comments? Okay, moving on. Next agenda item is introduction of new business. I'm asking for first we'll hear from legal counsel relative to the readoption confirmation matters on the agenda. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam President. If I could ask respectfully that the council take the balance of the agenda out of order so that I can talk about the two next new business items.
Sure. I'll entertain a motion to take the agenda out of order.
Motion to take the agenda out of order.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay, so these two items concerning the final of the amended budget are a bit unusual. The background to this is that the advertisement of the levy didn't get done for whatever reason. Council leadership was notified of this. Tax bills have to go out based upon an approved levy. So that's why we're here tonight. There is a misnomer in the agenda. This is not a readoption, and I want to talk to you about that in a minute. So just so that you're aware, the levy, it's the same, the levy hasn't changed, okay, for those who are listening. The levy itself was approved by the State Division of Municipal Finance, as well as the advertisement, which is a legal requirement. It just didn't get placed. So really what you're dealing with here tonight are two actions to confirm essentially what you did back in April 23rd. And so what you'll be doing tonight is considering a motion to ratify the actions taken by the council on April 23rd, 2025, with respect to the amended budget. And you'll see that there's an ordinance and a resolution listed there for you. And then next, you will ratify the tax levy as listed on the agenda, which is what you did back in April. So the motion that's in order on both of these is to ratify those actions taken by the council on April 23rd, 2025 to adopt the budget and to approve the levy. And I'll take any questions you have, but with that, I think you have background.
Any
Thank you.
discussion from council members? I'll take them each individually. Thank you for that explanation. And just to reiterate, the council did not make any errors. This was not an error on our part. I will entertain a motion to ratify.
I beg your pardon. One thing I failed to mention was that there is a letter in your package from the mayor concerning his prerogative to exercise a veto pursuant to section 610 of the charter. The mayor has indicated in his letter, it's an undated letter, but it nevertheless is part of your package. I think it's stamped June 13, 2025 is what the letter says. I think it would be in order respectfully, I suggest that the letter be made part of the record. And the reason for this is in facilitating this issue, myself and the council president had a call with the solicitor. And I pointed out to him in the call that the council would not have an option to override any potential veto. And I thought that it needed to be made clear to the council that the mayor did not intend to do that. They made it clear in their communication with us. And I thought to keep the record clear and to keep the council informed if the council had questions on that. So I respectfully ask that that be made part of the record.
I'd like to make a motion to enter the mayor's letter into the record.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Next, we will move on then to the matter itself. With respect to the first matter, I ask for a motion to ratify the final amended budget for the fiscal year July 1, 25 through June 30, 26, as adopted by the Cranston City Council on April 23, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question.
Sure,
I probably should have asked it
Councilman Morano.
before we made the motion, but Attorney Angel, through the chair, is there like a clock on the amount of time we have to place the ad? Is that the reason for the ratification?
We're having a technical issue. Sorry. Yes, there is, but that time has passed. So the levies, the advertisement of the levy delays the imposition of the levy, delays the billing. So that's the timing.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from council members? Okay. There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, ayes have it. Moving on to the second matter, the readoption confirmation. I'd ask for a motion to ratify the tax levy of $192,255,155 as adopted by the Cranston City Council on April 23, 2025 for the fiscal year July 1, 25 through June 30, 2026.
So moved, Madam President.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to the other new business items, we only have the claims matters. Do we have a motion to introduce that new business to its respective committee?
Motion to introduce the new business to its respective committee.
Second,
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Next, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good evening.